Welcome back to the Dr. Cliff Show. In this episode, we're going to teach you the best way to destroy your hearing and also how to protect it. Coming up. All right, we are back for our 10th episode of the Dr. Cliff Show. We are here live. I'm Dr. Cliff Olson, audiologist and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Rachael Cook. I'm also an audiologist at Applied Hearing Solutions. And today's episode, like you said, we're talking about all the best ways to destroy your hearing and all of the best ways to prevent hearing loss. And I'd like to just start this off with some pretty alarming statistics. In adults, between 10 and 40 million adults have some level of noise-induced hearing loss, meaning hearing loss that is caused by exposure to loud noise. Interestingly enough, 1 out of 8 children under the age of 18 already have a noise-induced hearing loss as well. And so this is definitely something that is happening very commonly, and we need to talk about ways that we can start preventing this for sure. So we spend a lot of time on this podcast reviewing the importance of treating hearing loss, but in today's episode, we're really going to focus in on hearing loss prevention. And we'll start by discussing just how loud is too loud and the ways that you might already be damaging your hearing. And then we'll be joined by Dr. Yasmin Batat, and she is for our Hearing Up Provider Spotlight, so I'm excited to speak with her. She actually just did a interview about this type of topic, so definitely on the top of a lot of people's minds. And then after that, we'll dive into some various hearing protection methods as well. And as always, we will close out with answering questions. So if you have any of the questions, please make sure that you drop them in the comments early so that we can answer them.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and hit like and subscribe right now if you enjoy us doing these live podcasts. I mean, we don't have to do them if you don't want us to do them, but let us know you support it by clicking that like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. But before we get into the rest of the show, we have a sponsor.
Our very first sponsor here. So today we've got Eosera. Eosera's got an entire comprehensive lineup of ear care products for ear wax, ear pain, ear itch, and even more. One complaint that we run into in the office pretty common is itchy ears, and this can definitely be true if you're just getting started with hearing aids, get adjusted for a few days. But if that continues, that can be kind of difficult to adjust to. So Ear Itch MD from Eosera is for those itchy ears that just keep itching. It has aloe and lidocaine in it to help kind of soothe the ear canals and relieve some of that itchiness. But they have an entire lineup of ear care products. I actually just went to CVS this week. I saw a whole shelf of their products, and one of them that was really cool was their earbud cleaning kit for like Airpods and headphones and things like that. So they've got all sorts of things. So all of their ear care products for ear pain, ear itch, ear wax, and even earbud cleaning are available at CVS, Walgreens, and most national retailers. And if you visit eosera.com and use promo code CLIFF20, you will get 20% off your entire purchase. So thank you so much to Eosera for sponsoring the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's get into the topic of loudness here.
Yeah.
We actually have a scale that we can show you guys for different loudness levels of different sounds that you would be accustomed to hearing typically. So if you start on the very softest end of the scale there at around 0 decibels, you start climbing up by 10 decibels at a time here, at least on this particular scale. And you can see how things get louder and louder and louder when you move from left to right. Now, there are a couple of different scales that can be used to measure loudness, but we typically talk in the perception scale as audiologists, which means that every 10 decibels that you increase the volume of something, you are doubling the perceived volume to yourself. So when you start looking at the upper ends here, you start getting to around 80 decibels or higher. That is when you start running the risk of causing noise-induced hearing loss. And you start getting up there to fireworks. I've treated patients inside of the clinic who were basically deaf in one ear because they had a firework go off too close to their ear. And when you start talking about 140 decibel sound, That is an extremely intense sound that can cause hearing loss almost instantaneously when you think about it. You think about other loud sounds that are up in the 140, 150, 160 decibels is also gunfire. And we're out here in the state of Arizona. A lot of people like to shoot out here. We're one of those states that you can basically have as many guns as you want and go shooting, whether it's out in the desert or you go to one of the many ranges that we have here. And if you're not protecting your hearing, it can cause a heck of a lot of damage really quickly. But that is not the only way that you can damage your hearing, because duration also has a play in this as well.
Exactly. So how loud a sound is going to directly correlate to how long you can listen to that sound before damage starts to occur. And so we've got various different standardized organizations like NIOSH and OSHA, and even like the World Health Organization, CDC, even the EPA, that have come up with these standards to help determine, okay, if a sound is a certain loudness level, how long can you actually listen to that sound before it becomes dangerous? Because what they realize is that we've got a ton of workers who are working Americans who are encountering high levels of sound that are damaging their hearing, and that's because they're exposed to it for an 8-hour day, a 9-hour day, or they don't have hearing protection at their work site. And so we have a graphic for this as well. So if you see this graphic, you can see the time that it takes to reach 100% of a noise dose. And this is based off of research and calculations that really just take an average of the sound level over time and then kind of spread it across that duration. Exposure level per NIOSH is in the middle, and OSHA is on that far right-hand side. And the difference between those two is really just that they're different regulating boards. So they have different, what they consider to be loudness levels that are dangerous and exposure limits that are dangerous. So different companies will operate off of different standards. But as an example, if we look at the 2-hour mark to reach if we look at NIOSH at 91 dBA in the middle there, right smack in the middle of that graph, per NIOSH recommendations, that is, you are only able to be exposed to that sound for 2 hours before you hit 100% of your noise dose. And anything over that 100% results in...
I mean, you tend to run into the risk of you're damaging your hearing to the point where you can't get that back.
Right.
I think of the last concert that I went to was in 2019. I can't remember exactly who I saw. It must not have been that good, unfortunately. But you know, on your watches now, like the Apple Watch, you can actually measure the amount of sound that you are in at that point in time. And I remember measuring it, and it was around 101 decibels. So when we look on that scale, it basically says, okay, if you're at this concert for longer than 2 hours, you are running the risk of hearing loss. So, and that's based on OSHA's standard. If you look at NIOSH at 100 decibels, they're saying that you can't be in that for longer than 15 minutes without damaging your hearing. Now, I tend to be more of a conservative approach. I tend to go with the more restrictive numbers there because I really don't want to damage my hearing. And when I was in the military, you know, when we shot, we would get in trouble if we were not wearing hearing protection on the firing line. And that's because now we're starting to talk about really high intensity sound, which is a gunshot, versus long duration sound. And the tricky thing about long duration sound that you were just talking about is that someone might not necessarily perceive it as being loud to themselves.
Right.
So they subject themselves to it for a really long period of time. And you think of children and all of the earbuds that they're wearing and the streaming that they're doing of music. I mean, just like it was back in the 60s, people listening to music too loud, damaging their hearing. That is coming right back around again with all of these earbuds.
It definitely is. And we see this all the time. I was actually looking up how loud Airpods can actually reach, just out of curiosity. And the max volume through Airpods clocks in between 102 and 112 decibels. Again, if we look right back at that graphic, that's going to tell us that according to OSHA, you've got 15 minutes of listening at max volume.
Or less, because now you start going in. So if we're at 100 dBA, they're in the center at the very bottom, that's 15 minutes. If you go up by another 3 decibels on their scale in dB, you now cut that to 7.5 minutes. And now you go another 3 up from that, you're cutting that to basically 3 minutes. I mean, it's just, it gets to the point where you get really loud sound that you might not perceive as being loud. You can only sustain that for minutes before you start to damage your hearing.
Right. And the problem with hearing loss, and we talk about this all the time, it's generally very painless, and you can't see it. And so a lot of this noise-induced hearing loss occurs, and patients or individuals don't even know that this is happening because it doesn't necessarily hurt in the moment. Maybe the sound is really, really loud and it might become aggravating at some point, but it's not causing any pain, which generally pain is a good indicator to people that, oh, I should probably stop doing this, right? If your knee starts to hurt, you stop running on it. But our ears don't necessarily hurt when you're doing damage, and so now you just continue doing damage over and over until that damage starts to kind of stack up on itself.
And you start looking at it. I was talking about a concert that I had gone to. I'm not a musician. You start looking at musicians and they start, destroying their hearing, usually from a really young age.
Yeah.
And then you start looking at some of the musicians we have nowadays that all of us know and love. Dave Grohl. He actually was on the Howard Stern show talking about how he basically can't hear anything anymore. Like, conversation is really rough for him. If he's ever in background noise, he has a really difficult time understanding people. And it's because, he spent time with Nirvana, he's the Foo Fighters, right?
Yeah.
And just rocking out for decades now at this point, and think his music is great. But that music has actually caused him to damage his hearing to a point where you can't get it back once it's gone.
For sure. And we even see this in the media as well. A recent movie, A Star is Born. I know you said you hadn't seen it yet, but I saw it, and that movie was great, but a huge part of that movie focuses in on the noise damage done to this artist's hearing, and as well as the tinnitus that was caused from that noise-induced hearing loss as well. It's a huge pillar of the movie. You literally see him go to the audiologist and get his hearing checked and things like that. So it comes up, and it comes up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, once you start experiencing hearing loss, and especially if you're the type of individual who gets tinnitus on top of that hearing loss, that massively impacts your life.
Most definitely.
So one of the easiest ways to not have that impact your life is to prevent that from happening. So one of the ways you can do that, of course, is limit your exposure to these types of situations. And we'll talk about some of the other ways you can prevent hearing loss a little bit later in the show. But before we get to that, we do have another sponsor, Resound. So background noise continues to be the #1 concern for individuals with hearing loss. I had just mentioned how Dave Grohl has difficulty in background noise. Well, that's why they developed the Resound Omnia hearing aid for better speech understanding in a noisy situation. So if you're someone who did sustain a noise-induced hearing loss, one of these devices can absolutely help with that. Now, I wore a pair of these hearing aids at a conference in Nashville a couple of months ago, and the noise reduction ability of these devices is shocking. They take it from, no noise reduction to you enable the noise reduction, and all of a sudden a lot of that noise ends up going away, and you can understand the person you're talking to a lot better. These hearing aids also come in rechargeable and non-rechargeable form factors, which I think is great because not everybody wants a rechargeable hearing aid, which is terrific. And then they have Bluetooth connectivity, so you can stream audio directly from your smart device into these hearing aids as well. But when you start looking at the #1 complaint that people have inside of background noise, having a device that can combat that is very beneficial. So you guys can learn more about the Resound Omnia hearing aid at resound.com. I also have a review of the Resound Omnia hearing aid on the Dr. Cliff AUD YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to jump right on into our Hearing Up Provider Spotlight. Today we've got Dr. Yasmin Batat. She graduated from Salus University, and she has been practicing audiology for 20 years. She's a provider at Oracle Hearing Center in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And in addition to her clinical work, she also works for Hearing the Call, which is an organization that provides local and international humanitarian hearing healthcare. She's also a mother, a wife, an avid hiker, and a killer volleyball player. And she told me earlier today that her favorite part of her job is just watching her patients' inner light shine through their better hearing and more meaningful human connection. And I thought that was a really sweet sentiment. So thank you so much, Dr. Batat, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to you guys.
Great.
Awesome.
So we're on the topic here about noise-induced hearing loss. Tell us just how often are you running into patients that have noise-induced hearing loss? How commonly does this come up in clinic for you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's funny, I'm seeing a lot more young people come in, and usually it's we're getting a call, they need to get in right away because they were at a concert recently, they were near the speakers, and now they're experiencing hearing loss, but more disturbing than that, they're experiencing tinnitus. And the problem with that is that it's not allowing them to sleep at night. They're feeling depressed, they're feeling anxious, they don't know what's wrong, and they don't know how to resolve it. So a lot of younger people who are having this kind of noise exposure, we are seeing them and we're trying to educate them as to, well, how can we protect ourselves? How can we go and enjoy ourselves at a concert and protect our hearing so that we don't go through this? Obviously, there's rehabilitative measures for addressing their hearing loss and their tinnitus, but there's also, an educational and protective measure that we're taking as audiologists.
So when you start talking about, with younger individuals, you start talking about using hearing protection and things like that. What type of hearing protection do you typically lean towards with maybe a younger individual versus an older individual that's trying to protect their hearing?
So yeah, I've really liked taking impressions and fitting a lot of my patients with musicians plugs that have different levels of filters, 10 decibel, 15 decibel, 25 decibel filters, and they can switch them out according to how much more volume or less or more protection that they want. And I've been just getting such a great response from something like that. In that they'll come back and say, I was still able to hear the music. I didn't think I could hear the music, but I didn't have the ringing. I didn't have that feeling of feeling like I'm underwater afterwards. And so it's just wonderful to be able to provide that kind of solution to people like that. And then we also talk about, wearing AirPods and how to enjoy our music while wearing AirPods. And a lot of times those conversations lead to, well, why are you turning up your AirPods? And they'll say something like, I don't want to hear the sounds around me. I really want to enjoy my music. And maybe we'll segue or we'll talk about, well, how about getting a set of, headphones that have noise canceling features so that you don't have to pump up your music so loud and you could simply enjoy that without having background noise interfere with your music listening experience. So a lot of it is just educating and trying different options, and they're open to it, and it's a great conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, let's say that they don't comply with those recommendations, which we know, or the damage has already been done. You had talked about you like to do custom impressions. So what does that look like for someone who is considering doing some hearing protection and they're thinking that this custom option that you're talking about is really nice? Can you talk to them about the impression process for that?
So yeah, I really care about taking and educating and telling people what goes into a really good ear mold impression, whether it be for music plugs or hunters, hunting protection or any or sleep plugs, and a lot of it comes down to the basics of making sure that when we do take protections with impressions with our impression gun or our, syringe using the two-part silicone, making sure that we're getting a sealed ear canal, making sure that when we as audiologists are taking that impression, we're covering the landmarks that are important to seal up that ear mold so that sound does not make its way into the ear canal. And just a little leak can actually affect how well you're protected. You guys know this. So I tell people, I think even me, I don't want to say it's more important than the actual ear mold that you're wearing, but the impression and how it's taken and making sure that it is covering all the landmarks and getting a good seal at the canal portion is so important in ensuring that you have good hearing protection when exposed to loud sounds.
Totally.
It kind of makes me think, I don't know if you guys have seen this, Dr. Batat, Dr. Cook, but I've seen some TikTok videos where there's some really bad impressions being taken on TikTok.
Oh
and I'm thinking along the lines of exactly what you're saying is that if you were to send that in to an ear lab to get a custom protector made, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
So it really comes down
Yeah.
to actually making sure that you're taking an impression the right way. And there's best practices when it comes into taking impressions. And there's also best practices when it comes down to treating a hearing loss that has had noise exposure and tinnitus on top of that potentially. You're part of the Hearing Up Provider Network, and that's why we're doing this segment right now. So in case any viewers are not familiar, the Hearing Up Provider Network is a group of hearing care professionals who are committed to following best practices when preventing hearing loss and treating hearing loss. So why was it so important for you to come on board with Hearing Up, and what do best practices mean to you?
So, you know, I was performing best practices before I joined your network, but I think the most important part of it for me as an audiologist is if I don't have a way of measuring my outcomes, a way of measuring the fitting, then I don't know if you're actually making progress. So a lot of what I do in the office is getting an initial test, a full battery, a very comprehensive test. And then as you are fit, as we follow up with you, actually double checking those results to see that our scores, our performance is improving. If I don't have a way of checking to see whether or not these devices are working properly, or if you're hearing soft conversational loud speech at the targeted levels, how do I know, what I'm doing and whether or not we're making progress? I tell people hearing aids are a care and maintenance game. But before that, they are a service game. If we don't provide service, if we don't check our service, if we don't measure our service, how do we know? It's like voodoo audiology. You're walking around the dark and hoping something's going to work out. Sometimes it might, and a lot of times it might not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's just so important to verify and validate what you are doing. And like you said, otherwise you're just taking a shot in the dark, and that's probably not going to be good for anybody.
And unfortunately, that's the majority of hearing care that's out there right now, is where, people are just getting hearing aids slapped on their ears and they say, how does that sound? And that's pretty much the end of it right there. So we commend you for what you do and your commitment to best practices, both before and during your time as a network member.
Most definitely, most definitely. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Patat. Can you please tell viewers where they can find you?
So we're located in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. If you wanted to get any more information about what we do and how we care about our patients, how we love on them, you can find us at oraclehearingcenter.com. We also have YouTube handles. You could look up Oracle Hearing Center on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram and TikTok. We're active on all those channels, and we love to post educational material that helps raise awareness for hearing and hearing care.
Awesome. Dr. Patat, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at some point in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, take care.
Thank you. That was awesome.
It was, for sure.
She's great.
You can. That's the thing with a lot of Hearing Up Network members, is that a lot of them have been following best practices for years, possibly decades, depending on how long they've been an audiologist. And it happens to be a lot more private practice audiologists because they get to dictate their own schedule. Since following best practices takes a lot of time, it's hard to do that in a lot of different type of settings when you get treated with hearing aids. And we've talked about it with you coming from the ENT setting. We've talked about it in hospital settings, big box stores, things of that nature. It's just very hard to find providers in those settings who are allowed to follow best practices.
Right. Well, I'm going to jump into our next sponsor segment here. We've got Sound Oasis up next, and Sound Oasis has an entire line of sound generator products for individuals that suffer with tinnitus, and quite honestly, this has been my saving grace lately because, as you know, tinnitus can vary in pitch and in level, and for some reason mine has just been a little worse than normal. And that, of course, can make it difficult to sleep, difficult to relax in those quieter environments. And so Sound Oasis has the BST 100 that has the built-in sleep sounds plus Bluetooth audio. You can create your own custom sound library with this device as well, and take it with you wherever because it's rechargeable. It's also Bluetooth, so it'll hook up to your mobile device and you can enjoy your own music or use sound options from the Sound Oasis sound apps. So visit the App Store and type in Sound Oasis to try them out for yourself. Also, be sure to visit soundoasis.com, and if you use promo code SLEEP, you'll get 20% off of any of their products. So thank you so much, Sound Oasis.
Awesome. All right. So we spent a lot of time talking about how, noise-induced hearing loss can come about, the prevalence of it, and all of that stuff. And we spent some time with Dr. Batat talking about some other things that you can do preventatively. So we're going to kind of continue on with that prevention of noise-induced hearing loss and then potentially tinnitus that is associated with that. But let's talk about the difference between avoidance and prevention. Okay. So I'm going to jump into avoidance right here off the bat. So technically speaking, you could just completely avoid any noisy situation throughout your entire life. You could do that. I don't think that that'd be very fun of a life to live, just staying inside all the time, hoping that no loud sound ever comes around you. But that is not realistic if you have a life where you actually have to go outside. So there's a couple of different things that you can do from an avoidance standpoint. Number one is establishing a greater distance between you and the noise source. And we actually have a graphic for this that kind of shows you that every time that you double the distance away from the noise source, the decibel level will drop by 6 decibels. And that's your exposure. So when you start thinking about that relative to the amount of time that you can spend in noise, you're actually increasing the amount of time that you can spend around that noise source if you just increase your spacing from it a little bit more. And it doesn't honestly take a whole lot. I mean, every time you double that distance, it drops by another 6 decibels. And so I think that that's a really important thing to understand, is that if you're out and about and you encounter noise and you have no way to protect yourself, you can actually just increase the distance between whatever that noise source is and where you're standing, right? And it's as simple as that.
It's one of the easiest ways to do it. And one of the individuals that was in my cohort at UT Austin, she did her 4th year research project or capstone project on these exposure levels. And so she went to ACL, Austin City Limits Music Fest, and took different noise measurements super close to the stage, and then as she got further and further away from the stage, and was using the OSHA regulations versus the NIOSH regulations to kind of figure out the best place to stand during these concert situations where you can listen for an extended period of time without inflicting any damage on the auditory system. And I thought that that was a pretty cool project. And it's true, you just have to kind of back away. And that's like the easiest thing for most scenarios. I think like concerts can be harder if you have like assigned seatings and things like that. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. But you can break out a sound level meter app on your phone. NIOSH has an app that you can pull out on your phone. If you're an Apple user, they have it embedded inside of all of their tech already.
And, I use it all the time.
Right?
I
know.
Embarrassing amounts of like, we're in a loud restaurant and I'm like, how loud is it in here? It's like, this has got to be causing damage. I highly recommend taking measurements of all the places that you go and things that you do, because you'd be surprised how many of them are actually at dangerous levels.
Absolutely. And then you can take whatever that number is, look at the NIOSH scale and say, I can only really be in here for 30 minutes before I'm running the risk of damaging my hearing.
And I will literally get up and leave.
And you'll get up and
will.
leave, right?
I'm like, I've got 40% of a noise dose left for the day, and it's going to be gone in 5 minutes, so I'm out of here.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that you have the ability to limit your exposure time. So not only can you get away from the noise source, you can just limit how much time that you're there.
Right.
So, and I just thought of the concert that I went to was a Bon Jovi concert. It actually was a really good concert.
Okay,
so,
good.
I want to give Bon Jovi credit where credit is due.
Here we go.
But the thing is that concert was probably only around 30 to 45 minutes, played maybe like 5, 6, 7 songs inside of that. But I was kind of thankful, although I did bring hearing protection to that concert. So it actually brought down my exposure level even more because I was protecting my hearing. And I think that that's what we should jump into right now is, okay, assuming you can't increase the distance between you and the noise source, assuming you can't limit your exposure time with that, well, what the heck else can you do? And protection is the other way.
Most definitely. So we'll jump into some of the more common protection options to begin. And the first one has got to be foam plugs, right? I think everybody knows what foam earplugs are, what they look like, but not everybody knows knows exactly how to use them. And as Dr. Patat was saying, insertion and getting a really good seal is so important to how well the hearing protection is actually going to work. And what we often see with the use of foam earplugs is that they are not being inserted properly. So I've got this graphic on the screen. You see on the far left-hand side that earplug is barely blocking the ear canal, and I can nearly guarantee that there are gaps in that seal, and you are not getting nearly the amount of protection from that you actually think that you're getting. Now in the middle, we've got a better insertion there, but still, when you're using foam earplugs, they should be nearly invisible, if not fully invisible from the outside. And I don't know how many times, I go to the gun range too, and how many times I see people with the foam plugs just barely hanging on by a thread from their outer ears. And I will sometimes, have to instruct people on how to put those in their ears, because it's just, when you know that it's not in the ear correctly, it's not doing what it needs to be doing. So they're widely available, which is great. You can probably get them at most concert venues, and I know even like a lot of bars and places like that will have them there. They're easy to buy. You can get them at any drugstore possible, but you got to make sure that you're putting them in correctly.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
I have a patient who was in the Phoenix Police Department for 20 years, and back when he first went into the police academy, they didn't teach him how to properly insert that foam protector, and he almost instantaneously, the first day at the range, sustained a hearing loss, and he never got that hearing back. All it takes is literally one time of not protecting your hearing in that situation, and you can damage your hearing. I did make a video about how to properly insert foam plugs. You can find that, of course, on my channel. I think the title is How to Properly Insert Foam Earplugs.
Okay, perfect. So it shouldn't be difficult to find.
But if you start running into an issue of not thinking you can do that, or you have really small ear canals or something along those lines, you can get over-the-ear earmuffs. And these can be a great alternative option for individuals who want to protect their hearing but are not good with using foam plugs. What you want to be careful with here is that when you look at this picture of this gentleman wearing the foam or the over-the-ear earmuffs here, is that he's wearing glasses along with them, which when you go to the range and you start shooting, it is very important to protect your eyes as well, but that can create gaps inside of that over-the-ear earmuff. So you typically want to either wear specific shooting glasses that are very thin, like titanium thin, that do not create a gapping there, or you wear some other type of glasses that don't interfere with the actual earmuff that's over the top of your ear. And you can get a lot of great protection that way.
You can, and one of my favorite parts about the earmuffs is that you can just use those as doubling up your protection. And so you can use foam earplugs, put them in, and if you're not exactly sure all of the way if it's protecting your hearing, if you're nervous about it, if you want to just know for certain that your ears are going to be protected, boom, you can put the earmuffs right on top of the foam plugs. That way you're double protected, and if there is a leak in the seal or if there is any issue with insertion, then you know that you are protecting your hearing no matter what.
For sure. And I think that some people are like, well, shoot, if I do that, I'm not going to be able to hear someone trying to talk to me, or I'm not going to hear range commands at the firing range that you're at, or the gun range that you're at. They have electronic shooting protection too. So you can wear over-the-ear electronic shooting protection where when you're conversing with someone, it's actually taking their voice and boosting it up for you so you can hear and understand them. But then as soon as a gunshot goes off or some impact sound goes off, it compresses that down and protects your hearing that way.
Dampened again. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have some patients sometimes who will say things like that, like, well, I need to be able to hear so-and-so. But I think it's really, really important to think about the fact that if you are continually exposing your ears to levels that can cause hearing loss, you're going to end up in a situation a few years down the road where you're not going to be able to hear well at all. And so it's like kind of sacrificing being able to hear in that moment for your future of your hearing for the rest of your life. So it's really important to kind of weigh your options there. And like you said, it only takes one and done, and you can essentially damage your hearing and have permanent hearing loss from that, even if it doesn't occur immediately after that. So just needed to add that in. It's really important. So.
For sure. And then we have custom hearing protection. So Dr. Batat, a little bit earlier on the Hearing Up Spotlight segment, she was talking about how she really likes to do custom earplugs.
Yeah.
Now, a version of those can be just a solid earplug that goes inside of your ear. So you can essentially have these made in a couple of different ways. One of the ways that you can have these made custom for your ears is to inject a silicone type material into your ear canal and around your ear. That solidifies after several minutes, and then you can take that, ship it into a custom ear mold lab. I do want to caution people here because there are some places that you go, gun shows, things of that nature, where they try to make these for you on site.
Yes.
I do not recommend that you get them made on site and have ones that you actually take home with you.
Yeah.
Those are never as effective as ones that you send off to a lab that they custom create for you. There's things called oto blocks that your professional will have to stick inside of your ear, and it has a little string that comes out that can create a little bit of gapping with that custom protector. So if you really want to make sure you're getting fully protected, that needs to go into a lab to get custom made for you. But doing physical impressions is not the only way.
No, it's not the only way. And in fact, in our office, if we can, we start off with doing ear scans. And so we have got 3D scanning equipment that uses digital lasers to kind of map out the anatomy of the ear. It's super fun to do. It's a very interactive experience because the patient can watch as the ear is being built on the screen as well. And these end up yielding great results as well. I'd say a large majority of our patients, when we get ear molds for hearing aids done, we use ear scans for that, and it's great. And I just recently took some ear scans as well and got some custom hearing protection made off of those too. And so either option works. It just kind of depends on how large your ear canal is. And like Dr. Patat was saying earlier, it's really important that you have a strong, good impression if it's going to be the silicone material.
And that really comes down to the hearing care professional that you're working with. If you're working with someone who does not do this stuff regularly, or they're not good at doing it, it's not going to yield a really good product for you at the end of it. So you just have to make sure that you find someone who's really good at this. Now, a couple of other types of hearing protection is filtered hearing protection. And again, Dr. Batat hit on this. I don't know how she talked about so much information in such a short period of time. But these right here are filtered earplugs. So the ones on the left-hand side of the screen are filters that are built into custom ear molds. And then you have more of the generic type ear plugs on the right-hand side of the screen that still use a filter. And you notice that those two filter colors are different. So another thing that Dr. Batat was talking about is that you can use a different filter for different types of situations. So you go to the gun range, you need one type of filter. You end up going to a concert, you need a different type of filter. You go to, I don't know, a bar in Nashville, you need like the strongest filter that you can possibly get, because I swear that those are the loudest bars in the history of the planet. But you can get a variety of different filter strengths depending on the type of situation that you're in.
Yep, definitely, and they work because especially when you're going to concerts and things like that, a lot of avid music lovers are really worried about, well, is the fidelity of the music going to take a hit, right? Because when I'm wearing foam plugs, it blocks my ears up. Well, now I'm at this concert that I just paid all this money to go to, and it doesn't sound very good. But with custom filters, we're actually able to filter out certain frequency ranges and not other ones, still reducing the overall noise exposure, but still maintaining the fidelity of the sound.
Absolutely. So. When you think of foam plugs that you put in your ears, they're going to attenuate certain frequencies a lot more. And so if you can flatten that response out, and the way you do that is with a filtered plug, all of a sudden the volume of the concert went down, but you can still hear all the nuances of the music because it's being played so loud.
Right. And speaking of music, our final option here is in-ear monitors. And so in-ear monitors are very generally for musicians or vocalists that are in performing bands. In-ear monitors are custom hearing protection that also takes the audio that's going into the microphone sources and cycling it back into the ear so that the artist is able to actually hear what they are doing when they are doing it. But it's just a really high level of hearing protection for these artists that are constantly exposing themselves to really high levels of noise exposure.
If you look at musicians from back in the day, even today, something that some musicians will use are called wedges. So they are speakers that are on the front of the stage, and they are pointed back at the musicians. And you're like, that's weird. Wouldn't that be facing the crowd that's trying to hear the music? And the reason they do that is because the band gets so loud around them that when they're singing, they can't hear themselves. So they have no idea how they sound. They can't self-regulate or anything like that. So you have the sound mixer guy actually play the vocals from those speakers back at the person singing so they can hear themselves. Well, you are just adding even that much more noise into it. So when you start thinking of Dave Grohl, right, you start thinking of all these other musicians that have hearing loss, they've gone and done hundreds, thousands of concerts with these wedges playing their own voice back to them even louder than the already loud band that's behind them. And that's why in-ear monitors are so great, because you can be wearing the in-ear monitor, get exactly the sound that you want, and at the same time it's protecting you from all the loud noise of the band, and you get exactly what you need to be able to perform in that type of situation.
Right. Now, all hearing protection is going to come with a rating on how, I don't want to say effective, but basically each piece of hearing protection has an NRR, which stands for noise reduction rating. And it's basically just going to be a decibel level amount that it should be reducing the sound by. And we have a graphic for this as well. This is something that is seen on the labeling for most hearing protection that kind of points to how many decibels you can expect to drop the sound by. Now, this is all dependent on best case scenario, so proper insertion, wearing them correctly, and getting that really, really good seal. And we know that most of the time, you're never really in one of those best case scenarios.
Right. In fact, when we go through school, they have these correction factors that they teach us that basically says, well, cut that number in half and like divide it by 2. Well, I guess that's the same thing.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there's correction factors assuming that people are not inserting them properly. When you start looking at a foam hearing protector, they are one use only. So if you're reusing a foam protector, there's potential that your noise reduction rating is dropping. So you want that number. We just showed you a number of 33. That's very good. If you can get a protector that has the number of 33 and you're inserting it properly, you're going to be reducing the decibel level theoretically by 33 decibels, and then you can calculate, oh, well, that increases the amount of time I can spend in this environment by like 15 hours. This is great, right? So I think that that is a fantastic number to understand. Internationally, you will have different numbers, but they're roughly symbolizing the same type of concept, is that you're trying to get that decibel level of exposure down, and the higher that you can go on that number, the better. And you can also double it up. So you could, like you said, you're wearing foam protectors that are rated 33, you put earmuffs that are rated 25 over the top of that. You do not add those two numbers together, but it does give you additional protection on top of just using one pair of hearing protection alone. And I personally love to double up my hearing protection. Obviously, since we're in this profession, we pay very close attention to that because we see, I don't know, many patients on a weekly basis that have had noise exposure that has caused their hearing loss.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. So, okay, so that pretty much wraps things up. But before we get to questions, so hopefully you guys have submitted a bunch of questions here for the show. I'm going to jump into our last sponsor segment here, which is ESCO. Now, I've got to ask you, you know who loves hearing aids? Almost everybody who tries them. Okay, so it's like 83% in last market track data of people who are extremely happy with their performance with hearing aids. But you know who else loves hearing aids?
That's what I was going to say. Dogs.
Dogs love hearing aids, right? Including this one right here. A dog loved chewing on this hearing aid. And that's fine because this individual that had their hearing aid chewed, they had loss and damage protection coverage on their hearing aids. So basically we just sent a deductible into the hearing aid manufacturer. They sent back a brand new hearing aid to replace it, but you can only do that one time, which is a problem. So what happens if your dog decides to chew that hearing aid up again? Well, that's why ESCO exists. So ESCO specializes in providing loss and damage and repair insurance coverage for your hearing aids, so you do not have to pay for expensive repairs or buy new hearing aids before you are ready to. They have a variety of different coverage plans, so you can get a quote for your exact hearing aids on their website. If you go to esco.com/Dr. Cliff, Dr. Cliff Show viewers will get a $10 Visa gift card just for registering your hearing aids. And then when your loss and damage warranty expires, they are able to send you a notification saying, hey, this is expired. You can actually renew your loss and damage insurance through ESCO to make sure that if your dog chews up your hearing aid, you can get that covered again.
Yeah. So thank you so much, ESCO.
Awesome. Now, we do not have Kelsey on the show today because she went to Disneyland for her bachelorette party and rode the rides there and screamed way too much. So she literally has no voice. And let me tell you, it's very hard to be able to ask questions on the show here without it. But she's been monitoring your questions and she's sending them over to you, I believe.
Sent on over, and I'm just going to jump straight on in. This first question I think is wonderful. It says, so many things are noisy. Planes, helicopters, even hair dryers, and vacuums. Should we wear hearing protection while we're doing all of these things?
Well, I would say that it depends on how loud they are. I really am a huge advocate for measuring the decibel level of things. It is not hard to do, right? If you have a smartphone, I'm presuming that if you're asking a question on this podcast that you have a smartphone to be able to do that. Run a sound level meter on there. It's very simple to do. See if your exposure level is exceeding a point where you can be in that particular environment. And you're probably pulling up right there.
I am. I'm trying to see how loud you are.
I'm a super loud guy. I'm probably pushing 75 dB on
you
there.
Are. You are.
Yeah. But you're very close.
Yeah.
So, no, you do not have to wear hearing protection for every single situation, but if you're going to be in a helicopter, I spent time in a helicopter when I was in the military, and I just remember being like, man, if I'm in here for a long time, I'm going to get out of this helicopter, and my ears are going to be ringing, and everything's going to sound muffled. So it depends on what context. If you're in a completely enclosed cab of a helicopter, I don't know if they call it a cab, cockpit, you'll probably be okay, but you need to be carrying hearing protection with you. I keep some in my vehicle at all times because I never know where I'm going to end up on any given day, and I want to be able to pull that out and protect myself.
For sure. It's that trade-off that we were talking about earlier. You've got the how loud is the actual sound and how loud are you exposed, or how long are you exposed to it. And if you're not exposed to it for very long, so a few things on this list like hair dryers, right, a blow dryer, chances are you're going to be using that 5-10 minutes. I don't really use a blow dryer very often, but I'm sure that's as long as it takes. That really should not be causing noise-induced hearing loss. But if you're a hairdresser and you're using them all day long in super close proximity, then yeah, maybe you do need some custom filtered plugs that just take a little bit of that noise down. So really just taking into account how loud is it, get that measurement for sure. And then what I like about this app as well, which I'm looking at that NIOSH app again, it will give you that noise dose. And so it basically gives you a running percentage, and it will say once you've hit 100%, you are no longer in safe listening levels anymore. You are now causing damage to your hearing.
So to some degree, you have to be some kind of a data nerd for this, or just wear the hearing protection, which is not a horrible idea.
Yeah, that works too.
Awesome.
Now, this next question, do all custom hearing protection options have filters in them so you can also hear people talking to you?
You want to take that one?
My first answer is no. So not all custom hearing protection options have filters in them, and that is because the custom hearing protection that you proceed with is going to be dependent on what you need it for. And so if you are someone who does a significant amount of target shooting, right, a lot of gunfire, and you go by yourself, you're not generally interacting with other people, my recommendation at that point is going to be a solid custom plug. And by that I mean no filters at all. It is completely solid. We don't want anything getting through if we can help it, right? However, plenty of other custom options do come with those filters.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a really good question, because you're likely going to have to go to a hearing care professional in order to get those, because someone's going to have to do either a silicone or digital impression of your ear canal, get it sent off, order very specifically what they want for you based on spending time with you to figure out what you're actually going to use them for, like you were saying.
Right. Now, first one, sorry, I was going to say first question because it's up at the top here. I didn't see it earlier. A recommendation from Dr. Cliff or Dr. Cook on earplug protection for concerts and football games.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that I'm a super big fan of filtered protection. I think there are a lot of companies that are out there that can do actually really good generic custom filtered plugs. I love a lot of them that are out there. There's a couple of different companies. You've got Phonec that makes them. You've got Westone that makes them. A company called Eargasm makes those. A lot of different plug companies are out there right now. I think Eros is another one that makes them.
Kelsey's jumping in. She sent me a message. Loop earplugs
Loop,
as well.
right?
She's really liked those, and they've got a great design to them as well. So those are good ones
Well,
too.
here's the fun thing though. I think that a lot of the good plug companies that are going to be coming out here or continue to come out, I think they're making them more of like a design aesthetic.
Yeah.
To where it's like a fashion statement. Everyone's looking for a different way to create a fashion statement. Hearing aid manufacturers have come out with hearing aids that have been more fashionable lately, and the same thing's happening with hearing protection.
Which is good, because when I'm at a concert, right, and I'm wearing a cute outfit and I got my makeup done and my hair done, I don't need highlighter orange earplugs hanging out of my ears, right? Like, well, in theory, they should not even be visible. But I agree. Part of the design aesthetic is going to make it easier and an even better option for people to be protecting their hearing in a way that is still cute and fun and cool and all of those things too.
And you think of if you're a parent trying to convince your child to wear hearing protection, since 1 in 8 individuals who are children have hearing loss that is noise induced, you want to make sure that you're getting them something that they will actually wear. And that's another thing, like get something that you will actually wear. If you get some kind of hearing protector that is supposed to be super protective and you don't wear it because it's uncomfortable or it's ugly, get at least the one that you would wear.
Most definitely. Yeah, the one that you wear is going to be the one that's going to be the best for you.
For sure.
That, like, easy. So my final question that I have here, and earlier you were talking about electronic types of hearing protection, and I think is the one that, raises the voices up when people are speaking, and then when there's that impulse sound cutting the sound. Who makes these types of hearing protection?
Oh, okay. A good number of them. One that's really good is Starkey. So Starkey's a hearing aid manufacturer, and they create something called the Phantom. And so they're actually the digital rechargeable, so you can plug them in and they will amplify speech for you to a degree, and then as soon as you shoot, it will attenuate a gunshot. Over-the-ear version that I like is Peltor. So I have a Peltor. I think they're Peltor Tactical 500s, but you can wear those. You get Bluetooth connectivity with those. In fact, you also get Bluetooth connectivity with the Phantoms too. So you can stream music and things like that while you're also protecting your hearing at the same time. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear with this, is that a hearing protector does not double as a hearing aid and vice versa. Right? They are two completely different use cases. So you cannot take one of these devices and turn it and say like, oh, this is a hearing aid for me, and same thing vice versa. You can't take a hearing aid and say, oh, I'm going to take this to the range and this is going to protect me because it caps to a certain volume level. That is not how this works. So you have to make sure that you're getting something very specific. Now, there are some other brands out there. ESP America, so Electronic Shooter Protection America, they're another company that makes custom in-the-ear shooting protection. A company called Westone, which I think that someone has mentioned on this episode here a little bit earlier, they make a shooting protection that's electronic as well. You have to make sure that you do your research on these, and more importantly, you have to find a hearing care professional that is good with working with one of those particular brands. And if it were me and I was going in to see someone and I said, I want this hearing protector, and they're like, well, I'm better at fitting people with these and they get better results with these, you go with the one that they recommend primarily.
Comfort level is huge there. There's a reason why they're recommending it, and they probably have more experience working with that product, and experience is just going to result in a better experience for you as the patient.
And they're probably a better vendor with that company that they're using. So if they run into issues, they can help you solve those issues a lot easier than if they're working with a company that they don't have experience with.
Most definitely. But great questions all the way around, for sure.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us again this week. This has been super fun for us. Hopefully you take a lot of the stuff that we were talking about today to heart and you start protecting your hearing, because if we could prevent noise-induced hearing loss, that would have a massive impact on society in general, and not having to deal with the consequences of that and the tinnitus that's associated with it. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. You can find us live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Arizona time on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and WTSMTV.com. And as always, we'll see you next week.